Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Manage Your Practice Remotely and Productively as part of the LTRC Industry Insights series held every Wednesday. Our speaker today is David Hepburn. David Hepburn is the Global President of Actionstep, a leading cloud-based practice management software company. As president, David leads operations and strategies across the company's US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand offices. He is an experienced businessman and commercial strategist with a background leading innovative software businesses. David's career has spanned product development, solution design, customer success, and sales marketing engagement for a range of software solution providers focused on business transformation. Thank you all for joining us. We'll now begin the webinar.
Thank you very much, Sasha. And hello, and thank you for joining us today for the webinar on law firm productivity trends working remotely. And we're delighted to have so many of you on the session today. As Sasha said, my name is David Hepburn. I've been with Actionstep for about a year and run the company day to day. I've spent more than 10 years building software for professionals such as doctors and lawyers, and my passion is making a difference and helping our customers deliver better outcomes for their clients. So just a quick intro on Actionstep, for those of you not familiar with us. Actionstep is an all-in-one legal practice management solution built in the cloud with workflow automation at its heart. Actionstep uses workflow to get rid of admin distractions and organize legal work, and giving lawyers the headspace to listen, engage, and make a difference to clients every day. We want to make sure firms have the flexibility to evolve and grow so that all firms of all practice sizes can benefit. So let's dive in today. I plan to cover some key lawyer productivity trends and talk about what impacts the productivity in your working day. You know, obviously remote working right now, given all of the global drama with coronavirus and COVID-19, has become, paramount for many of you. How do you organize and run your practice from home? Obviously, there are many cloud trajectories occurring in the world right now, and Microsoft have a really deep and expansive cloud strategy, and we think that can benefit your firm. And hence, that leads us to actually trying to manage your practice from Outlook. And we're going to look at why it's important to be able to manage your practice from Outlook and Word and all those places that you spend your time, and also enable to get control of your inbox. We believe that technology needs to meet you where you are. This is a key ethos for us, and we think that will make it easier for you to do what you need to do. It's really interesting how we get our hands on a new piece of technology, whether it's a new phone or a new app or even just at the ATM, even just an ATM. How familiar it feels so quickly and how intuitive it is to navigate. It shapes our willingness to keep going back to it and keep using it. And that said, though, most technology, particularly technology for lawyers, requires you to leave the familiar and learn a new system or way of doing things. And that's what really sparked our ambition to try and meet lawyers and paralegals where they are with our technology, rather than constantly forcing you to leave the familiar and context switch and change lanes and move to another system to achieve what you want to achieve. So here's 4 trends that I'm going to talk about today. Obviously, the remote working trend, major focus that we're all going through right now, and generally where lawyers spend their time, which clearly is less in the office than it was before, and I'll talk about some of those trends a little later as well. How lawyers, paralegals, administrators spend their days too is changing. The systems you spend your time in are many and very fragmented. And actually, one of the major themes that orientates us is this handling multiple tasks and context switching between these different systems that you interact with, and that kills your productivity. And I suppose finally, we'll talk about mobile apps themselves and why we choose to do some things on mobile apps when our computer is sitting right in front of us. These are trends that come up time and time again in our user research, in our third parties. So let's talk about the first one, remote working. Our first trend is a topic many of you are familiar with currently. I'm sure all of us on the call, maybe not all of us, but most of us are probably trying to figure out how to organize our businesses from home and our teams from home. We're in a unique position at Actionstep to interact on a daily basis with many law firms around the world adopting this new normal. So how are we seeing Actionstep firms cope? Well, for firms that are already in the cloud, which are all of our customers, obviously, they're spending their time acclimatizing to work at home. They're focusing on building great team collaboration and client communication, and thankfully don't have to struggle with system access and side. But for the majority of firms that are still not in the cloud, it's a real struggle to get up and running remotely. They have to make quick decisions to get cloud-based systems, sometimes, if they choose, or struggle on with their existing systems. They may not have the full functionality of their case management system from home, and I think some of them that we're talking to are finding it hard to stay connected to that on-premise system or local server that might be back at your office. Also, the reality is that legal technology has evolved rapidly over the last 10 years. Many VPNs into local systems are not fit for today's standards of security, which frankly, is pretty scary for us all. And as I know, Laura's, you guys are so focused on your client data security. And so for those of you that chose to move to the cloud, well done. And for those that you haven't, all is not lost. And I promise this is not a pitch just for Actionstep today. I know many cloud providers are well set to transition firms to the cloud. And we're going through a number of virtual implementations right now. A couple of large firms who really needed to get on board quickly, and it can be done. If you don't want to change completely to a new system, there are a few tools available that can help you in the short term. And we've actually decided to give one of our practice management products away for free to law firms during the COVID-19 crisis for up to 6 months. So firms who need to can use it until they can go back to their usual system when things settle down. So obviously, we know how technology is not the only aspect firms are struggling with. People are working from home independently, sometimes in less than ideal environments, but for many, this is a completely different way of working, and it has been adopted overnight in many cases. So for team collaboration, information sharing, morale, these types of things can really suffer in these new environments if you aren't well set from a technology enablement perspective. So, I know there's been a deluge of articles and guides being shared about how to work well remotely, but, I'm an organization psychologist, but I will share with what I've learned from virtual law firms because we have many customers like this. Remote working is their normal business model. They see many benefits in having a virtual model from a cost, flexibility, and access to talent point of view. And so how do they do it successfully? Well, there are a number of themes here on this slide. There's a presence without being present. The common strength with virtual firms is how they develop a presence in their client lives and within their teams without actually being present. Number one is deliberate communication. Yes, they use technology like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, we're on that now and are completely in the cloud, but just as important is how they communicate with each other and with clients. We have seen this ourselves at Actionstep, the importance of scheduling daily check-ins, turning on video, having Friday get-togethers, using messaging the way we normally chat over coffee in the office, talking to people face-to-face, but virtually. Your firm culture can stay intact if you keep up these habits of connecting with team members, and offering these members of your team flexibility in terms of hours they work and trusting them to do their work is key. People like working for virtual firms because of the flexibility and trust that those firms give them. Virtual firms retain their talent as a result. Consistent client experience protocols. The same approach can be applied to clients. Having a clear set of protocols that your team can follow in relation to client comms is crucial. It maintains that consistent client experience. And when should you update your clients on matter progress? Well, you can set tasks, reminders for this to happen in any good matter or case management system. Better yet, you can automate it so clients get updates whenever a new milestone is reached within that matter. If clients of virtual firms are loyal to them because they get great experience every time they deal with them, just as they are loyal to traditional firms. Visibility across practice is also key. Virtual firms are obsessed with data and reporting because it gives them the same sense of firm productivity that other firms might get from walking the office floor and seeing how people are working. Every day, they use reports and dashboards to understand all the things we often ask people. What are you working on? How are things progressing? How is our billing looking? What are the holdups? What resources do you need? Next theme on this slide is automation. Virtual firms automate as many processes as possible so that tasks can be assigned without having to ask someone personally. This ensures things are done as they should be, supporting consistency for clients and making sure matters are compliant. If things are automated, they can be tracked so things are visible to everybody. Discipline about tasks and a focus on tasks is important. One thing I plan to talk to you about is reducing distractions or context switching. Successful virtual firms train their team to really plan out their day to allocate time to specific tasks. This is publicly shared and is busy. They are trained to stay on task, not to get distracted mid-task, and to be efficient. The purpose of this is to improve productivity and get better margins, one of the main benefits of a virtual firm. And finally, dare to be different. This is actually one of our values at Actionstep, and many virtual firms have decided to create an alternative model for how to practice law. They're doing things their way. They have slightly different approaches. They work for one another, and they may be individual contractors, that firm, for specialist events and cases that they're required to participate in. They take the lead. It's up to you to try things differently and see what works or doesn't work for your firm. So again, as I said, virtual and remote law is one of the fastest growing areas we see globally. We think 75% of US companies plan to shift at least 5% of their employees to remote working permanently. 96% of lawyers use a smartphone to do some amount of legal work. I mean, that's probably not that surprising. But obviously for me, as a cloud-based legal firm, a legal software firm, what I'm interested in is when productivity of mobile devices, laptops becomes equal to or greater than working at your desk. And what you should all be interested in is that same thing, because realistically, what more and more law firms are moving towards is these potential benefits of using technology across your practice in different ways. So, as lawyers, there's enormous pressure to maintain and improve your client relations. Getting closer to your clients means spending more time with clients in their offices or homes, really understanding their pain points, and communicating with them regularly on matter or case updates and turning work around quickly, moving through the milestones of their matter with efficiency so clients can both be satisfied and are likely to recommend you to others. And to reach this goal, being mobile and being able to take that technology with you and access it wherever you are, is really critical. On to our next trend, how do lawyers and paralegals and administrators spend their days? What are the systems you spend the most time in? Well, a lot of things going on this slide, and I'm sure a lot of things going on in your days. On a day-to-day basis, where do you spend most of your time? On this slide, you'll see things like email and Word, or Gmail and Google Docs. You may have, other platforms that you use within your practice. Obviously, calendars are important. Time capture tools. You might spend time billing. You may spend time in other document automation systems. There's all sorts of things going on there. And I'm sure you find that you jump between these systems. Do you parcel up your time, or in each system do things in one and then go to another, or are you continually working between them? And do you do your admin as you go, or do you try and catch up at the end of the day? So that might be tasks like time tracking, and other follow-up activities around a particular matter or case. Well, according to our feedback from our users, it turns out that for many of you, the most used systems are the places you spend most of your time and are most productive. Those are places like email and Word. And as many of you are using Microsoft Office products, and we're seeing a huge migration of our client base into those platforms as well, that means you do spend a great deal of time in Outlook and Word each day. And from a practice point of view, it's counterintuitive to leave Outlook to update other systems information that is already in Outlook. So I suppose we know the systems where we spend the most time. How productive are we in using those different systems? Are we doing what we need to do in one and moving on, or are we jumping between these systems? Well, it's the latter. We jump between them all the time, and this is called context switching. And even when you aren't doing it deliberately, the way we work today in multiple systems or multiple devices in multiple places with multiple colleagues grabbing your attention makes it impossible to avoid context switching. And our job at Actionstep, we've taken on this mission, is to try and reduce that switching and increase that productivity. And the truth is, our brains are not capable of focusing on more than one thing at a time. This was a really startling statistic for me. 80% of the intellectual property within firms is communicated or stored in an email. So the information does exist, it's just in the wrong place. It's not in your matter or case management system. It's hard to get it in the right place because that requires you to move to another system and try and upload the email or the documents attached to the email. It takes a lot of effort to do that. And this disconnect, between email and practice management system means that 80% of intellectual property just continues to live and sit within email solutions or file storage devices on computers or other shared devices, but not in the context of the matter or case. One other piece here, this is from the American Bar Association, is pretty clear. All attorneys should be tracking their time and updating files contemporaneously and recording time every day. It is too difficult to try and recreate your work on a month, in a week or a month at the end of the billing cycle. So if you try to do that, you'll probably make mistakes. This is, again, a big deal. Document management and retention rules are in place, primarily for the security of client information, and many workers and members of your team, I'm sure, from time to time, fail to comply with these policies and procedures, and they're critical for our businesses and so important for, our ongoing compliance and success. I think, again, this is another interesting stat. So, it's interesting, this study by Gartner, shows that about 50% of the information, firms need is missing from the files on the systems where the information should be. This is pretty disappointing, I suppose. How are we supposed to know what's happening with a client matter or a case, or report across practice utilization if we haven't got, all the information in the right place or accurate billing forecasts? The final theme here that I'm just going to talk about is, and I'll just talk about it quickly, is really this trend towards us using mobile apps rather than computer browser screens. I suppose you could be sitting at your computer and yet use your phone to do everything like transfer money, send a file, look up a contact. And you might think the reason for this is linked to being out of the office more and therefore using your mobile phones to do more work. But it's actually more about how easy apps are to use. Mobile apps, by design, have to reduce down the amount of things you can do on them. They focus on the things people need to do most frequently. So we at Actionstep think about developing new systems and software for browsers or mobiles. We need to prioritize these things because actually this is where we are most efficient and can do some of those key things that we need to do every day. So I mentioned at the top, Microsoft have got a massive strategy and transition from their on-prem, on-device technologies into the cloud, and that's their Office 365 strategy. Obviously, we're here to talk about productivity, and we know many of you use these products, and the Microsoft trajectory, is massive because, cloud-based software such as Microsoft integrates very well to many other different subsystems. It's easy to do because it's in the cloud and we can connect directly to that cloud rather than something sitting inside your practice on a server. And many of the issues lawyers have faced before, can be eliminated through this move to the cloud. For example, having to check documents in and out, being unable to collaborate on documents in real time, losing work because it didn't save to the server. So we're seeing this really crazy adoption, of these types of cloud and particularly Office and Microsoft 365 services. So, latest show that, now more than half of all sensitive data that is stored in the cloud is actually in Microsoft's platforms, which is extraordinary. So again, we're here to talk about how you can potentially manage your practice from Outlook. I'm going to show you a little demo of some of the things we're working on, but let's just talk about the problem here. We know from our session today that Outlook and Word are one of the places where you spend a lot of your time. Firms need a matter and client information and case management information all in one place. And that place is probably not an Outlook inbox or a set of directories associated with Word on your computer. Expecting you guys to tag and file documents into centralized systems of predetermined technologies is completely impractical. So, you find plenty of ways to avoid getting around these steps of filling, in moving documents and putting them in the right place. So if it's hard, you don't do it. We also talked today about context switching and how that kills productivity. And actually, fundamentally, the move to the cloud is creating a lot more efficiencies and opportunity for productivity improvements. So given that you spend a great deal of your time in and around Microsoft 365, and then surround it, we're looking at ways that we can surround that technology with the things that you absolutely need to do, and do it within the real estate of where you spend most of your days. So what we've done is built an add-in for Microsoft 365 that takes a number of core functions and features of Actionstep and brings them into your Outlook or Word documents. And to give you a real example of this, I'm actually going to talk you through what we've done and we've built. So with Actionstep's add-in for Office Outlook 365, you can update client files with relevant documents. You can communicate on the matter. You can add notes. You can review the matter status. You can record time. You can assign tasks, and you can keep the client informed right from within Outlook with a skinny Actionstep application add-in. This reduces the productivity and loss of moving between the different systems and improves the quality of the data in your practice management system, because real-time updates are more complete, timely, and accurate. Now, Actionstep is now the only practice management system with this degree of comprehensive Office 365 integration. And there are various plugins and things. We've had one historically, but we've really gone very deep and rich in terms of function and feature available within this add-in that I'm going to show you shortly. Before I give you a quick look at the add-in and its benefits, I want to take this opportunity to give you some further context about where we're going. Our purpose as a business is to make lawyers awesome. We have a deep respect for what you do. You impact every milestone in our lives and businesses, and the difference you all make has a profound impact on your clients' personal and business success. It benefits all of us to have the tools and the freedom to work as well as we can, and that's what we aim to do. So based on the deep understanding of how you guys work, this Outlook add-in's broader strategy is to meet you where you live. And those are the places and systems that you are most productive, and letting you manage your practice and keep working and organized wherever you are on that device. So I'm just going to click over to my other desktop, if you just bear with me a moment. And I'm going to show you my inbox, if you just bear with me a moment. Okay, I believe we can all see my desktop again. So this is my inbox. I've got my Actionstep inbox here, and this is how I organize my screen. I've got my emails here and a preview screen here. And you'll see on the right-hand side of my screen the Actionstep add-in here. So as I migrate through, and I've created just a couple of documents here to kind of help with this demonstration. If I click on this matter here, this email here, what the add-in has done is gone away and looked at who this email is from, and it looks within Actionstep to see any related names related to that particular matter. So actually, you can see my name is related to these 4 matters that it's suggested in the add-in on the right. Now, I actually want to track this matter to the Smith family. So I click on the Smith family matter, but I could easily have looked up another matter or searched for another matter if I wanted to through that search bar that was in the add-in there. So what that's done by just literally clicking on that email has taken the email and all its attachments and synced it with the matter within Actionstep. And you can now see, and I'll go across to Actionstep in a moment and show you, but you can see now that I have a high-level view of the matter. I've got a home screen here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Let's just bring this out. I've got a home screen here, which describes the overview, some of the key participants, the last file note, and any billing details associated with the matter. I can review the parties that relate to this particular matter. I can look at the file notes associated with the matter. Recent ones, there's only 2 in respect to this particular matter. And I can look at time entries that have been tracked to this particular case or matter, the Smith family wills and estates matter case. And I can finally interact with. You can see here that there are 2 tasks assigned within this matter to me, and I can actually interact with these and complete tasks within the screen too. So the other piece of the jigsaw that I said you could do was actually do a lot more with this. So this plus button here allows you to do a lot of those very simple tasks that you might want to do. I can create a new contact associated with a matter inside the add-in and add that and create that within the matter. I can, from that screen, also create a very simple file note. Just say I've updated the file. And I can also, within this matter, create a task and assign it to a member of my team. And finally, within the screen, I can also very simply and easily create a time entry. So if I spent, I don't know, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever, responding to a particular email, I can quickly track time, and I can select quick codes from all the standard quick codes that would exist within my time billing options. I can make it billable, non-billable, the types of rates, the bill behaviors, and all the rest of it, are all here and core to this add-in screen. So again, what you can see here that I've not had to change context or move to another system to actually ensure that the components of this particular email and the documents are now attached to that. So if I now just move across to Actionstep itself, many of you won't have seen Actionstep. But this is the view. This is obviously a browser. This is Chrome, which is where I live and use my browser from here. This is the Smith family matter, and you can see here that documents associated there is my email that I just tracked, David, the Smith Family Documentation Foundation on the 8th of April. That was yesterday. Here I'm based in New Zealand, so I'm afraid I'm already on the 9th of April. And it actually has tracked it in chronology. In this matter, I actually had tracked an earlier email, but it will also have taken the documents associated with that and tracked them into this matter as well. So you can see that within Actionstep, anybody else that has access or permissions to access and interact with this matter now has the very latest view of the world. You'll see my file note that I added here. That was the file note I created 1 minute ago. And any new tasks or calendar appointments that are created for this particular matter will also exist here. So a very, very simple and easy way from within the real estate that you spend time and live in to interact with the matter. One other thing I'll just note for you guys, you'll see here that there's a little green tab, and we create a category for emails. So this particular email, the Smith Family Document Foundation email, and attachment have now got a marking of green, which shows you very quickly and easily in your inbox that that particular email and attachment are now tracked to that particular matter. I'm going to show you a bulk assign in a moment if we have time, but I just also wanted to show you on a mobile device how this works as well. So you're looking now at my iPhone, and that's my Outlook app on my iPhone. And actually that's the email that I just tracked here, but let me select another email, this one here. So you can see in this email, I've got an attachment and a very simple email. If I now click on these 3 little dots in this area of the screen here, it opens up the opportunity to interact with the Actionstep add-in. So if I click on that, it now opens up the same view that you saw within the add-in. So you're now on your mobile, on your Outlook device, and I can now, sitting on a train or on the road or from wherever, now take that email that you saw here. I can search for a matter here. I could just easily search, and it would return, all matters relating to Smith. I'm actually going to choose the Smith family matter. It also suggested the Smith family matter because it had seen what I did before and learns from that. And there again, within the application, you can see the same view that you saw. This is my iPhone that you're looking at now. I have access to the parties, the file notes, the time entries, and I can also add contacts, file notes, tasks, and time entries, through my mobile device as well. So again, bringing that technology and power to your mobile device is also one of those key themes we're thinking about.
Great. And I think that is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank Actionstep and everyone for attending our webinar as part of the LTRC Industry Insights series. I'd also like to thank David one more time for presenting today. If you are curious about future webinars, please check out the ABA LTRC page or follow our Twitter at LTRC for updates. We will now conclude the webinar.